Hi guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'll create another watercolor painting, and this time I'll try and do the double exposure technique again, where I paint a landscape in the girl's hair. I really started to love this effect, so I want to try it again, and let's get started. So the very first thing I did was to make a base color in the hair for the motif, so I could see where I was going to paint the motif in the hair. And I recently discovered that I really like to build up my colors slowly with a lot of layers. So I let each layer dry before I paint on top of it again. And I think the reason why I like this way of painting with watercolors is that I feel like I have much more control over the colors and how intense they're going to be when I slowly build up the colors, especially when I'm doing skin tones and shading. Then I really like to slowly build up the shadows and the colors and all the details, instead of just using a very dark color for some of the darker shading in the beginning. It does take a lot more time because I make so many layers and slowly build up all the colors. I think I do this in almost all of the painting, not just skin tones, so my paintings are taking a little bit longer than usual now, and I can definitely feel that when I was going to edit this video. I think I had between 7 and 8 hours of footage, and I normally have about 3 to 4 hours of footage for a painting this size, so I can definitely see that my painting progress is taking much longer than usual. But I don't mind that, because I do prefer this way, because I feel like I have more control over how the colors are going to look like and how it's going to look in the end. Because if some of you work with watercolors normally, you probably have noticed that sometimes they live their own life. When you use a lot of water on the paper and you put color on that area, you don't have much control over where the colors are going to float out and how it's going to look. And so that's kind of the reason why I like to slowly add a little bit of color, so I can blend it out and then later build on top of that area and make it darker very slowly. And I also started to like using a lot of purple colors when I try to create the shadows on the girl's face and body. And also blue colors, but especially purple colors. I think it looks very good with this very pale skin tone that I normally paint on my girl's face, because I normally use myself as reference when I paint these women. And I'm very pale myself, so it's natural that when I use myself as reference, I also paint the girls with a very light and pale skin tone. But that is also one of my art goals for this year, that I want to practice painting different skin tones than my own, which is this Nordic pale skin tone. And one of my other art goals is to practice on painting and drawing hands and fingers. I'm very bad at that. And also painting and drawing noses. I've always been very, very bad at that thing. So that are some of the things I want to practice this year and hopefully get much better at. Another thing I want to this year is to try different mediums than just watercolor. Watercolor is by far my favorite medium, but I want to try some digital art very soon, because also that my school and study, I create logos, websites and things like that, so it would be ideal for me to get better at digital art. So I'll definitely try and practice more on create things in Photoshop and Illustrator, and maybe I can make some videos at some point when I'm getting better at it. I also want to try and work more with ink. In my recent school project, we had to create a website and a logo and a music video for a rock band, and they wanted many of the things to be in black and white, and if you know me, you know that I don't typically work with black and white, and especially the color black, which I don't really see as a color, but I had the chance because of the project to work more with black and white, and then I had the chance to use my black ink when I had to make sketches for logos, for an example. And it was actually quite fun to just paint in black and white, and you didn't have to think about which colors I'm going to use and how I'm going to mix those red colors with the pink colors or green colors. So I started to use black and white ink in my little mini sketchbook recently, because I can just make a motif very fast. I don't have to think about what colors the mermaid or the jellyfish or the night sky is going to be, because I only have black and white. So I really want to try and use black and white more in my art pieces in the future. When that is said, I don't want to mix black with my colors, because I think then the colors get very muddy and dull, and I don't really like that look of it. There's nothing wrong with it, I just don't like how it looks. I would rather just make like a black area in the painting and not mix it with the colors, because I do like the contrast between the black area and the colors around it. And also the black and white contrast can also be very beautiful, so I'll definitely try and use more black in my paintings in the future. I also want to try out colored pencils much more. I do have a lot of the Faber-Castell Polychromos, and I have made, I think, one real drawing with the colored pencils, and it was very fun to do because, as I mentioned before, I like to have control over when I paint and draw, and I feel like I have a lot of control over how the colors are going to look like with the colored pencils, because I don't have to wait for the colored pencils to dry like with watercolors and acrylic painting. And another positive thing about colored pencils is that I can draw a little bit and then I can put it aside, and I don't have to worry about, oh, I need to finish this area, because if it dries I can't make it look good the next day, because I have to finish this part right now, even though it's going to take a lot of time. Like for an example with the night sky in this painting, I would have to quickly finish the layer I'm working on, because if I don't, that would be maybe half of the painting would be dark and the rest of the painting would be light. And when I try to make the light part dark, maybe it wouldn't look as good. So that's one of the good things about about the colored pencils, that I can just color a little bit, and when I don't feel like I have time for it, I can just put it aside and work on it whenever I want to. And I tried to, when I was cleaning out my drawer where I have all of my art pieces, I found my first painting where I used this double exposure technique. And it was quite fun to see the difference from the first one I did a little bit over a year ago and this one, especially the hair strands. I can see a very clear improvement from back then and now. And also with the girl's expression, you can see a quite big difference from 1 year to today, which it's quite fun to see. Like, oh, I really did improve on my painting skills, because I do feel like I didn't improve very much, but when I see at older paintings and drawings, I can see a big difference, which is so much fun to do. And sorry if you can hear some noise in the background. My neighbor is cutting down the trees, so I'm sorry if you can hear some noise in the background. And for the light hair strands, I just use my white gauze and mix it with the blue colors. I think this was much easier than trying to paint around each hair strand when I tried to color the skin tone. That would have taken me ages to do, so this was much easier to do. And now my favorite part, making the stars. I've said it before and I say it again, it is such an easy technique. It's something everybody can do, but the final result is just stunning and beautiful. And I thought about making some kind of tutorial video where I show how I make the stars, because some people have asked me if I could do it, and I would gladly do it, because as I said, it's very easy to do and you can use so many materials. You can use white acrylic, you can use white ink, white gauze, whatever you have. You don't have to buy a certain product to do this technique. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so I'll just play some music for the rest 4 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time.